Hi folks, hope you're okay today. It's good to see you. We're just looking at this book, How God Became King by Tom Wright, and we're just going to listen to an interview and then read
things over there. And so we have read the Gospels through a grid of interpretation which is systematically and at every point denying that one of the main things that the Gospels are trying to affirm. So I don't know how to say that except by doing it rather sharply, that I think we've all been getting it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Could you maybe recall for us some particular passages in the New Testament that point out the emphasis or the importance of Jesus and the kingdom and his kingship?
Yes, I suppose a passage which many Western Christians know very well, because they may hear it read in church at Christmas time and so on, is the beginning of John's Gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. What John is doing in that passage, hooking up with what he does in his story of Jesus' resurrection, is to tell the story of Jesus as the story of a new Genesis, a new beginning. And Genesis is all about the creation and about God's beautiful, lovely world. And the story John tells in his Gospel from beginning to end is a story not about Jesus telling people to leave the world behind and go somewhere else, but a story about how in and through Jesus, the one God of creation is rescuing creation and enabling his people to live as new creation people. That's a way of telling the story which I never heard when I was growing up in church and when I was being taught as a student and so on, and we need to recapture it. But this comes to a climax in John's Gospel at that extraordinary scene in chapters 18 and 19 when Jesus confronts Pontius Pilate. And here we have the kingdom of God squaring off against the kingdom of Caesar. But it isn't Jesus saying, well, all this kingdom stuff is a waste of time. It's Jesus and Pilate arguing about different visions of kingdom and truth and power. We see that as well in, say, the beginning of Luke's Gospel, where Luke in chapter 2 spends some time setting up the chronology in terms of the Roman emperor of the time, Augustus Caesar, who was emperor when Jesus was born. And Luke describes that in considerable detail, that Jesus was born in Bethlehem because Augustus Caesar wanted to have a census so he could get more tax and do all that stuff, which was standard practice at the time. Anyone living at the time would know that this story, any Jew living at the time would know, this story of somebody being born in the royal house of David in Bethlehem at precisely the moment when the Roman Empire is flexing its muscles, is bound to lead on to a sense of, well, which kingdom are we going to go with then? And the story ends.
I think N.T. Wright is saying some interesting and helpful things, as long as it's not taken too far. I think it's very helpful. He writes in page 18, unless we are constantly aware in reading the Gospels that they are telling the Jesus story in such a way as to bring out the Israel story, we will never hear their proper harmony. This is the first of the speakers in our sound system, that we must turn up its proper volume. The events of Jesus' life, death and resurrection, to be sure, burst upon an unready first century Jewish world, as the evangelists make clear on every page. They are the real fulfillment, even though the people weren't expecting it. All the people's parables about the returning Master or Lord coming to their own. There wasn't a smooth salvation history in the sense of a steady crescendo, things getting better and better until the moment arrived. Rather, it was the reverse. Israel was in a mess, and God had to do something radically new. For the radically new thing God did was nevertheless the thing he'd always promised, the thing for which they'd always most deeply hoped and prayed. This is the paradox. It runs right through the New Testament, and especially through the Gospels. He does tend to use Israel quite a lot for his hermeneutics, and I think he pushes that too far. So you've got to be aware of that. Don't take it all in, hook, line and sinker, but he's definitely got some interesting things to help us to understand the Gospels and historical Jesus studies.